welcome back to Cindy's Library. This is Cindy, and today I'm going to talk about what I read to end out the month of... No, I'm going to talk about what I've read so far in the first half of August. Time's going too fast here, apparently. Anyways, been good so far, no complaints. So, let's see what we have here. I started out with Tales of Ancient Egypt by Roger Lancelyn Green. He is excellent on taking ancient stories like this and putting it into a way a middle grader can appreciate. Did it with Greek and Norse mythology. He did it with the Trojan War. Did it with Robin Hood and King Arthur, but I chose Egypt since it's been a while since I've done anything with Egypt, so this was a great refresher. I wouldn't say this is only mythology. Sounds like there are folklore and legends that we've managed to find inscribed as well, but I quite enjoyed it, so good choice there. Let's see, I also finished looking at The Art of the Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And this was edited by Wayne G. Hammond and Christina Scull. And this is basically exactly what it says. Tolkien, he did a fair amount of art for The Hobbit. His own artwork was included in The Hobbit. But there's more than that. You have all sorts of sketches and initial ideas. And where's a good one? Yes. Variations of the Trolls. Most exciting. And so we go over everything that Tolkien created artistically for The Hobbit. Everything from sketches to his finished pieces, whether inkwork or watercolor paintings. See, I also read The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. And what's interesting, well, there are several interesting aspects to this story. The first is that it is set in London and almost could not be more mundane, except fantastical things start happening. It's also interesting that we get very little description of what Hyde does, except for two specific cases. It's also interesting. In some ways, this is very much a story about the good and evil sides in the hearts of men, kind of like the picture of Dorian Gray. But I liked this one much better somehow, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because Stevenson is not as detailed and keeps the horror of the situation more within certain bounds. Not quite sure. Oh, and one interesting note is that Dr. Jekyll is not the good side of Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde is the bad side of Dr. Jekyll. But Dr. Jekyll, he is just a normal person with a good and bad side, which ends up being a large part of his problem, shall we say. Let's see, I also finished The Winter's Tale by William Shakespeare. This is a reread. Loved it as always. It has such a fairy tale ending, which is wonderful after such a, let's just put it this way. By the end of Act 3, just about everything that could have gone wrong, except for one specific thing, does go wrong. Because the king, let's see, Leontes, King Leontes, that's right. Because he does wrong, just about everything that can go wrong for him does go wrong by the end of Act 3, except for one thing, which grows into the beautiful fairy tale resolution at the end of Act 5. So absolutely love it. This actually would be a good one to pair with Othello because both deal with the theme of jealousy. The only thing is that in A Winter's Tale, we have, if it's not a comedy, it's at least a comic ending. Othello is just a tragedy straight through. And I read Pride and Prejudice, another reread, another favorite. What can I say? Hard to stay away from Jane Bennet and not Jane Bennet. Well, Jane Bennet's great too, but Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. Wonderful to spend time with them. Love it. And let's see. Yes. The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbury, originally written in French, and I'm not sure who my translator is, or if there's multiple translators possible. But it's an interesting setup. You have this high-end, posh apartment building, basically in Paris, where elite families live. In a lot of cases, if it's not the exact same person, it's the son and his family of the original owner or things like that. And the concierge, oh, what is her name? Anyway, she puts in an extremely great effort into seeming only a concierge in the way she talks to other people, both grammatically and mood-wise and things like that, and subjects. And she looks exactly like a concierge, nothing particular to notice about her. Not particularly attractive or anything, but she does have a great secret. She's really an autodidact. She has read the best books. She enjoys the best movies and music and art. She secretly treats herself to the best food. And no one in this apartment building has any idea of who she really is. Well, one day that sort of starts changing because there's a girl in the apartment, 12 years old, I think. She is just as smart as the concierge, and in her case, it is acknowledged. But in her case, it has led rather to a kind of nihilism. She sees the pointlessness of life through the pointlessness of the lives of her mother and father and older sister and the other people in the apartments. Other fellow students at school don't even help her in this way. So she has decided to keep a journal, actually a couple journals, basically about life and whether it's worth living. And if she decides no, it is her plan to burn the apartment down and commit suicide on her 13th birthday. That's how full of despair she is in. Well, during this time, she makes a number of observations, and she doesn't notice the concierge at first, but we actually get a new tenant in the apartment building after someone dies in one of the apartments, and they get this new tenant. He is an older Japanese man, and he is different from anyone else anyone there has ever met. And both the girl and the concierge are attracted to him. And I mean that in the sense of like insects being attracted to honey, that kind of attraction. And he notices some things, and well, the three lives intertwine, and I can't tell you anything more than that. It's a very philosophical book, and both the concierge and the girl, they make a lot of interesting points. But at the end, I just wanted to give both of them a hug and say, let me tell you about the great plan of happiness by Heavenly Father. That's what you really need in your lives. And that way, the conclusion wasn't entirely satisfying. And I'm not talking about actions at all. I'm talking about the conclusions that philosophically were come to. Obviously, the author doesn't have the worldview that I do. She's able to see a lot of the problems, but doesn't know the solution, so to speak, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. But very glad I read it. Very glad I read it. So that is what I have read for the first half of the month of August. How's your reading been going so far this month? Hope it's been going just as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. Truly do appreciate it. And so until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading!